Hey world, it's Justin, and you are tuned to Anywhere the Needle Drops. Today we are talking to some folks from Stockroom East. Now, that is not a band, no. Stockroom East, that is a local venue and co-working space, and Michael Yoder and Matt Ingle of Stockroom were in the Red Chuck studio to chat about what's going on down there, particularly the live music scene that they are helping to build through Stockroom. It's a fun place. It's a great place to see live music, both local acts and regional, even nationally touring acts that happen to be passing through town. We talk a lot about what their goals are with Stockroom East and what they're trying to build through it in the local music scene. It's a lot of fun. You should definitely check that out. You can go over to stockroomeast.com or find Stockroom East on all the socials, and you can see the latest of what's going on there. You should definitely check it out. Like I said, the shows, they've got local bands there. They've got some names there. You're going to look on their website and see some names that you recognize. And you know what? You can see a show. You can get out of the show, and you can be home in no time. That's right here in our home area of Michiana. Great things are happening with live music, including at the venue, Stockroom East. Check out my conversation with Matt Ingle and Michael Yoder of Stockroom East right now. Oh, and folks, one minor correction. During my conversation with Michael and Matt, I discuss one of our local blues legends, Billy Nix, and the band he was in, where he played the song Shotgun, a song we all know. However, I don't know what I was thinking, but I mistakenly referenced the band as Junior and the Igniters. Whoa. No, that's not correct. That's not correct at all. The band was Junior Walker and the All-Stars. That's right. Billy Nix and Junior Walker came out of South Bend, and the All-Stars did some magic in the world of music, and again, gave us that song Shotgun, amongst many other great tunes that you should check out. But again, it's Junior Walker and the All-Stars. I do apologize for misspeaking there. All right, on to the show. All right, so before we jump into the venue, why don't we talk to you guys a little bit about yourselves? In fact, first, can you each give me your name just so people that are listening know which voice goes with who?
Yeah, this is Michael Yoder.
Yeah, and the guy that talks too fast is Matt Ingle.
Nothing wrong with that. All right.
So we're live. We're going.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
We just dive right in.
I love it, man.
We just dive right
very
in.
Pete Holmes-esque.
Yeah.
We're already recording.
I had Sharon Sims from Dance Society in here a couple weeks ago. In fact, that just came out today.
Yeah, we listened to that.
Oh, did you?
On the
Yeah.
way up here, yeah.
Yeah. No, we were chatting, and then all of a sudden she was just like, "Wait, are we going?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, we've been going." So. We just dive right in. So yeah. I mean, we've kind of known each other for a handful of years. So give me a little bit of your background, just in the local scene, I guess. You know?
So I think we probably got connected through Dan Dietrich, maybe.
Yeah.
You interviewed him. He just released it. I think re-released it 3 episodes ago or something like that.
Yeah, actually, he came back on the show for a new interview, and then so we kind of thought, we'll remaster the old one and bring it back because I have
awesome.
a sound guy now that can fix things that I didn't know how to do back in the day. So
I think we connected through him.
Yeah.
And my background in the area, I've been in South Bend, I don't know, 8 years now.
All right.
I moved back up here. I was working at Bethel College, now university. We've really stepped up our game.
Sure, yeah.
And, I left and started a podcasting company, and that was 7 years ago now.
Yeah.
And through that process, was working at the General Deli coffee shop for years and years and years. And I was like, I'd like a cool place to work. And that kind of led to me discovering what is now Stockroom East, and kind of developing that into a co-working space, and then building out the venue as we now see it. So that's a little bit of my background. My background in the music scene world is love music. I'm into podcasting as a full-time job. And just want to see cool music in the area.
Very cool. Yeah. Now, you said that you came to South Bend. Where'd you come from?
I came from a small town of Bern, Indiana. So that's 45 minutes south of Fort Wayne. I did my undergrad and postgrad both at Bethel, and moved away, and then came back, worked there for a while, and then decided, hey, we want to intentionally be in South Bend. We love, Pete Buttigieg described it as a way that it's small enough where you can have a direct impact on what's going on, but it's big enough where I don't go out to dinner and see someone I know every single time.
Sure, yeah.
So it's one of those cool, like, we can do something like a Stockroom East where we are having a direct impact on the city.
Yeah.
And you go to Chicago, no one really gives a shit. Like, yeah, can you swear?
Oh, you can totally swear. Yep, go for it. Yep.
Yeah, so no one cares though. You know what I mean? Like, we're just a drop in a bucket.
Yeah.
But it's kind of got that cool size where like you can actually help something grow.
Totally. Yeah, I 100% agree. Yeah. Yeah. How about yourself? What's your background here?
Yeah, so this is Matt. So I grew up in Bremen, just Indiana, about 20 minutes, I guess, south of South Bend, and went to Bethel College / University as well a couple years before Michael.
Yeah, we didn't know each other.
We didn't know each other.
Oh, no way. Okay.
No.
All right.
After college, moved to Nashville and wanted to get into the music industry. Took a little bit of a detour at first and taught high school English
All right.
for a few years, and then made the natural progression to a record label, which is a long story how that all happened, but took a job as a national promotions manager at Sony Music, their Christian music division.
Okay.
Had no qualifications for it, but I'd been doing a lot of journalism, like music journalism writing.
No way.
For
Okay.
the Tennessean over the summers while I was on break as a teacher, and just through some connections got a job at a record label, and had no idea that national promotions was even a job title. And basically what that is you get songs played on the radio. Your job is it's essentially a sales job. You take singles that artists at the record label create that are meant to be on the radio, and you talk to radio stations all over the country that report to the Billboard charts, and build relationships with these guys that make the decisions at every station.
Sure.
I didn't realize that was a thing. I just always assumed that, like, when you hear a song on the radio, it's because some DJ just really liked it and they just kept playing it.
Yeah.
But there's a whole process behind it. So I kind of on the spot, my boss just knew that I could be good at this, and with no experience, and started doing it and really enjoyed it, and did that for 3 years, and then went through some family crisis that took me back up to South Bend, where I'm from, and had to quit that job, and started my own company, my own radio promotions company, kind of out of desperation. I didn't really know what else to do, and started that in 2011-ish, and I've been doing it from up here since.
Very nice.
And started a couple record labels, and then fast forward to just last year, Michael and I, we've known each other or known of each other. I remember, I feel like every time we'd run into each other at the General or something, we'd give each other a hug. And, but we didn't really know much about each other. So, but I always found Michael super approachable, super cool dude. But yeah, there was one of my favorite artists, singer-songwriter out of Nashville. I guess he lives in Spain now. I was doing a house tour, like doing house shows, and his manager asked if I wanted to have him come to South Bend, and I didn't really know where to do it. I thought, man, I love this guy. I just don't really want to. I think he deserves something bigger than just playing a show at my house.
Sure, yeah,
so
yeah.
I knew about Stockroom. Michael and I connected, and we're like, well, let's just do this show here. So we did the show back in December 2022. We both had just such a blast setting it up and putting it out. It wasn't a huge show. I think we probably had 100 people. Yeah. But really cool moment. We're like, let's do this again. And then that kind of just developed into what we call Stockroom Live, which is the kind of concert promotions arm of Stockroom East. And just have been booking shows. And
I don't think we had a stage then. Or did we?
It was on the other side of the space, but yeah.
We had a speaker set up on speaker stands.
Yeah, it was pretty janky.
Yeah, it was like a board where half the inputs didn't work.
Right, yeah, it was. Yeah,
The DIY days, right?
Oh yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. So you mentioned music journalism. Is that your background education-wise, or
yeah? Well,
okay.
I had a degree in education and journalism, so English education and journalism. So yeah, I was always a writer since I was in high school.
Sure.
And then would just turn in articles to different magazines. I'd go to a concert and I'd just do a review and send it out to a couple different magazines. Like, hey, I just went to this concert. You want to hear about it? And people would love it. And so I just started picking up little freelance gigs as a writer, and then
anything irrelevant.
Yeah, so Relevant was my first gig.
Seriously?
Yeah, that's funny that you
awesome.
said that.
No, I remember. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's
Are you
very
familiar
cool.
with Relevant magazine?
Yeah.
So, when it first came out, someone sent me the very first issue, and I was like, "This is a pretty cool publication."
Yeah.
And so I sent them a couple things, and they're like, "Yeah, keep sending us stuff." And then it turned into them giving me assignments, like. They were probably paying me dirt cheap compared to other people, but I didn't care. I was like, man, I get $30, $30 whole dollars if I do this whole article. It's going to take me 4 hours.
Yeah.
Oh, exactly. And then especially when it turned into when I started writing for the Tennessean, the Nashville newspaper, in their entertainment magazine, and at that time that was the coolest thing. I was a broke teacher making like $28,000 a year.
Sure.
And that's expensive to live in Nashville. Even back then it was. But yeah, they would say, hey, these shows are coming up. We'll send you a CD, give you tickets, and you get to talk to, we'll have you set up an interview with one of the artists. And to me, it was like, I get to meet somebody and go to the show and get a free CD. That, as a 23-year-old or whatever, that's
the dream.
Made it.
Yeah.
Totally made it.
Yeah. I mean, so I'm a freelance journalist myself.
Oh, nice.
Not educated at all in that. I just, I've always been a writer and wrote and managed to convince people that, had the access to read my stuff and pay me to do it. But again, I know it's not a lot it's
not a lot of pay.
I still have the day job. So.
Yeah.
Oh,
You started
you do it, though.
just writing again too on Red Chuck, right? Or you started the blog? Is that
Yeah. So this show, and then that kind of had all gone on hiatus for a while. I just kind of got burnt out because there was a time where I was trying to make it into something larger, and I took a break, and then what had happened was. I ran for office a while back, and as a result, I had to drop all the writing I was doing for the newspapers and that kind of thing because of all those policies. And then some time passed after that, and I was kind of getting out into the scene again and made a reconnection with the newspaper. They're like, hey, start sending us some stuff because, I wasn't a politician anymore. And I realized, there's still a ton of cool stuff happening in the scene. So it kind of got the desire to get this going again and then get the writing going again. And I'm actually right now in the process of trying to launch the written web version of this show. So this is Anywhere the Needle Drops. And then there is going to hopefully soon, be the Anywhere the Needle Drops webpage, online magazine kind of a thing where, all my written stuff will go, particularly the stuff that I can't sell to the newspapers. If they don't want it, it's still going to have a home there at least.
That's a cool idea.
Yeah. And really, and that's what the whole idea of all of this is just showing people what the scene is, because I still talk to people, and they're like, well, there's nothing to do around here, or there's nothing to do tonight. And I have this calendar that I keep, and some of it I do manually, and some of it auto feeds from Facebook feeds and other stuff like that. But it shows you what's going on at any given night in the area. And there's not a single night on that calendar that doesn't have at least 3 slots filled. Okay. There's always something going on around here, but people don't know about it. And so part of what I want to do is I want to change that, so
awesome.
Highlighting the artists, highlighting the venues and all the events that are going on. And that is the mission. So
it's a pretty great mission, man.
Yeah.
You're going to serve a lot of people.
Trying to. Well, and you guys are a part of it as well. I've seen, especially recently, the number of shows picking up on the website and, some of the stuff you've got going on there. I mean, I think the biggest one recently that I saw was Tommy Prine. I mean, that's an awesome get right there, So what do you have a particular, a philosophy for what you're trying to do with the venue? Are you just kind of grabbing for what you can get? Are you aiming for a certain artist or a certain vibe? Like, what's the whole idea behind what you're doing down there?
I think we'll probably have 2 different answers.
Yeah, maybe.
But maybe not.
Let's find out.
Actually, so what are your roles at Stockroom East? So, what do you each actually do there?
Man, we should definitely have this conversation, Michael.
We have it right here. So
sort it out right here. It's on the record.
Stockroom East is officially a 5-headed animal.
Okay.
So there's 5 of us partners. It's me and my wife and me. Sorry, I can speak good English.
It's all right.
Lindsay and myself, Matt, and then Nathan and Rachel Kane. And we kind of all have separate hats that we wear. And then at the same time, we all kind of we have a lot of interlapping things as well. So Matt really heads up, I would say, the musical side of things, but I'm on Stockroom Live as well.
Yeah, so there's two different teams. There's the Stockroom East team, which is all the people that Michael just shared, and then Stockroom Live is Michael, myself, and Gary Riggs, and Justin Heron, who had just joined us earlier this year and has been a huge benefit for us.
Nice.
Huge
Okay.
asset.
So we meet from a Stockroom Live perspective. We won't talk necessarily about Stockroom East. That is an event. For those that don't know, Stockroom East is in South Bend, right next to Howard Park. It's an event center that does co-working during the day, and then concerts and events, private events, birthday parties, everything at night. Everything from DJs to concerts to bar mitzvahs, weddings, whatever you can think of. It's a big industrial building. But the Stockroom Live, specifically, we kind of all wear different hats in the same hat. So we'll meet on Mondays. We'll brainstorm who are some artists that we want to bring in. We'll look at who we have coming up, contracts. I'm learning so much that I never knew existed in the music industry. It's probably not new to you, but I don't know that we have necessarily defined roles within the Stockroom Live side of things.
Yeah, it's kind of whoever's accessible in the moment. And
Sure.
some of it's passion too. Like, so I'm not a numbers guy. I'm not a bank guy, finances, and so Gary and Michael pretty much head up all that stuff. And and then Justin and I will be play a little bit more with like what the sound gear we need and what are things that we can do with our production to make it better and make it more solid. And
management communication, you handle a lot of between like band managers,
booking agents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you leaning into your connections from your time in the music world, working for the label, or as a journalist, to make your connections to bring in artists?
I mean, I could. I have a lot of people that are more recently reaching out to me.
Nice.
We just made a post about it on Facebook earlier this week, just kind of announcing that this exists, like that not only the Stockroom East exists, but the team and all that. And so that went to my personal Facebook page too. And so I've got all these thousands of friends that are in the music industry that had no idea.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden they're like, oh, well, I've got this artist, or I've got this band coming through, or I know I'm going to have these tours coming up. What could we do to work together?
Sure.
Which is, it was very cool. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I think Stockroom is going to work, is because it's such a great in-between to so many other venues and markets in the Midwest. I mean, Grand Rapids, Detroit, Columbus, Chicago, obviously, Milwaukee, Indianapolis. So people have a day off in between some of those dates. It's like, makes total sense to come do a quick show in South Bend.
I think that's the strength of this entire, the Michiana region. And I know people hate Michiana. Like, I think that's just what it is, right? We have to just accept that and adopt it. Yeah. I like it. And it's accurate too, because, being on this side of the border, we are sort of the forgotten corner of Michigan, to the point where I grew up in Bridgman, so North County. Okay. And the fact that I live in Niles and love Niles, you never would have convinced me that as a kid, because Niles and this whole section of the county was a whole, and now that I live here and love this place, and I came here on accident and discovered it, but I kind of want to steal all that power from North County, from St. Joe Benton Harbor, and bring it here and have this like whole South Bend, Niles, Buchanan, Michiana thing going on. But it is this perfect stopping point between Chicago and Detroit or Grand Rapids. You can catch these artists on the way, and like you guys are talking about something very similar to what some of the energy here in Niles, that we're doing, including, Paul, the guy that does sound for the show. He and I have been working on a lot of ideas and trying to leverage that fact that, we're right there almost in the middle, and we can do a lot with that. And at, South Bend and Niles prices versus Chicago prices or Detroit prices, know. So that's great.
That's cool.
That's well said.
I love the philosophy of love where your feet are, and like, just love where you're from. And that's kind of what it sounds like you're doing here in Niles and Michiana in general, like South Bend. Like, like the 10,000 foot view, is it the coolest city in the world? Probably not. But like, I think it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. And I think that's a big part of it. Michael, you are for sure such an advocate for South Bend, and you're such you've become such a I don't know if character is the word, but like just a staple. And so that's helped a lot too. I mean, Michael's got great relationships in the city, and he's very invested. And so I think that's definitely a benefit for Stockroom.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Well, you ask, I think at the start of this question, what's our philosophy with who we're bringing in? I think that's an interesting question in general. And I think from when we first started, and I think that even exists now, is we want to bring in people that are, I would say, up and coming. Would you say that's the right phrasing for that? Like a Tommy Prine who just started out, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like obviously legendary family, but like recognizable. So those like, we don't necessarily have a genre that we're aiming for. But I think it's that level of people that, hey, who's comfortable coming to a 350 person venue that could sell out.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of that, and then the other end of the whatever that would be, the parabola, where it's like, you know, kind of the sunset years of some artists, where they're like, you know what, we probably our best years are maybe 10 years ago.
Sure. Yeah.
But we still, I mean, I'm 43, so a lot of the artists that I listen to still are artists that I really paid attention to mostly in my 20s and 30s.
Yeah, because the 90s are the best.
Yeah,
That's right. That's right. They are.
So I'm
you hear
always
that,
looking,
kids?
Exactly. Let this be a lesson to you all. But yeah, I'm still very. For one, they're a little bit more accessible now.
Sure.
And financially, we can potentially afford to have them.
Yeah.
And they've got these songs that a lot of us grew up on that. Man, I want to hear those again, and it's such kind of a special moment.
Yeah, definitely.
So
like at our last meeting on Monday, we talked about, well, the Gin Blossoms are going to be close. What would it look like to get the Gin Blossoms? Is that a possibility?
Sure.
Yeah, they were the biggest band in the world in the 90s for a minute,
Yeah.
you know, but obviously now they're still pretty big.
Yeah.
But like, we've had like a couple guys from, you know, we didn't have the entire Humphreys band there, but we had like several people from Humphreys play. So like that level of, that's kind of what we're looking to do.
Yeah. I love that too, because, you know, I'm a live music guy, and that has not ebbed. I'm 43 as well, 42. I don't know. I'm in my 40s.
Right. It doesn't matter anymore.
But like my love for live music has not gone away. But my tolerance for the journey to Chicago and all the logistics with just all of that, and then the time change, like the fact that I can go to South Bend and see a great show and be home in 15 minutes, and as opposed to I've gone to shows in Chicago and I've literally driven home as the sun was rising.
Same.
It's like
I just did it this weekend. I got home at 2:30 in the morning. It's like, I'm too old for this.
Yep.
I'm taking my daughter to see the Strokes tomorrow night in Chicago, and I'm already like, man, before they even go on stage, I'm gonna be like, I'm so ready for bed.
Time for bed.
Like, I am exhausted, and the show hasn't even started. I'm like ready for the show to be over, and I'm already like processing the drive home and all that. Like that's
funny.
That's what 43 is.
And I don't know if you ever run into this issue, but I have all these bands that I love that none of my friends are into, and so many of my journeys to see music are on my own, and I love that. I actually enjoy that, except for again, that drive home from Chicago in particular, that's really hard by yourself late at night, so I love having shows I can go to nearby. And it also seems, I know at least a couple of the shows you have coming up, you have at least as maybe openers, some of our local musicians. Yeah. So is there an aspect of that you're trying to plug into as well?
So
100%, yeah.
I would say really important to me from the get-go was we want to be a venue that's known for several things. One is treating our staff and paying our staff well above like what market rate is. Like our bartenders make really good money. And then also like we want to exist for the local scene. Like, cause without the local scene, like Stockroom East in some regards doesn't exist. And we're not doing a good service to South Bend as a community if we're just bringing in, touring people and then they come and go. The local scene is what's going to stay here and invest in the community. And so like, I don't know if we're hitting those marks. Like we fall short several times, but like that's always our goal, is like we want to give the local artists a platform, as well as, the person that we're bringing in that's on a national touring act. So that 100%, we sit around all the time, like who could we have open for Tommy Prine? Well, Zach Du Bois is a local country artist that's going to open. Revel Noir is going to open for Philip Michael Scales,
Yep.
who we just announced. So like, who can we pair well that goes well together? That like, absolutely, let's give them a platform and get them out there.
Yeah, and I've realized I wasn't super plugged into the scene before last year, and we have actually there's a lot of talent here.
Oh,
There's
it's
amazing amounts of
yeah. I mean, I've been, you know, again, I kind of accidentally stumbled into this area, and you know, discovering what was going on in South Bend. First, back in the days of, I don't know if you guys were around or remember when we were doing the Sounds by South Bend Festival,
Yeah, absolutely.
you know, and all that, and then that eventually evolved into River Lights, I think, you know. But seeing the artists that came through those things, and then kind of the changes we've gone through in the scene, you know, through COVID and through all of that, the talent is so amazing. I mean, I'm just floored. Some of my favorite albums of all time are by artists who, you know, they're local. I know them personally, and they have day jobs, you know, but they still have like go-to CDs that are like my desert island lists.
Man,
you know?
tell me what's one of them?
Well, so I think the biggest one for me is the Rutabaga.
Okay.
So I don't know if you know the Rutabaga, but you know, Josh and Garth, they both were in South Bend for a while. Garth now lives up in Kalamazoo, but their album, "Oh Brother, the Lights Don't Work," is in my top 5 albums of all time.
Dang.
Awesome.
And
Are they still together?
they're still together. Yeah. They don't play out much any longer. The last show they did was last summer at Laying Lab. There's some issues around, even at this point with the pandemic, there's some compromise issues, so they can't really play out a lot indoors particularly. But no, I mean, one of the most amazing bands in the area, and they're just two humble dudes with day jobs and kids and, you know, everything. And but music that will make you cry. I mean, it's just, it's so good. Yeah. And then again, Rebel Noir, I mean, they're amazing. There's so many. I'm working on a project right now with Abby Thomas.
Yep, she's played at Stockroom.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So she's, they're working on their new album, and then she's taking that out on tour, and so we're doing a documentary about that whole process.
Oh, how great.
As well, and just the talent that she has is just mind blowing, and it's just, here we are here in, Michiana, just doing our thing, and all these amazing artists around. So
there's that band, the Bergamot.
Oh yeah, I love the Bergamot.
Yeah.
I'm actually working on a project with them as well.
Okay.
For the spring, I think. So stay tuned for that.
Cool.
I'll let you guys know.
Really cool.
But I mean, the level of talent we have. I mean, the Bergamot, they had that documentary they did that was getting Oscar buzz for a while.
Absolutely.
I mean, come on, like it's just right here, right here. So yeah, it's pretty fantastic.
Oh, that's great.
Pretty fantastic.
It's been so fun to, just kind of, for me personally, to dig up like this whole bunch of talent and give them a stage. And there's a lot of gratitude too. Like I feel like everybody that we've brought in has been very grateful, for the opportunity. And and we're as grateful to have them too. It's not like, I think it's very much like we're brand new, you're brand new-ish. Like I'm glad we can kind of support each other.
Yeah.
On that same note of gratitude too, it's almost crazy the amount of people that have almost come out of the woodworks to want to work with us and help us.
Yeah.
Just today I met with Caitlin Smith, who came in, who is working with us. She wants to help see the live music scene in South Bend flourish. Griffin, just so many people that have come and said, hey, we see what you're doing. We want to walk alongside of you and help you.
Yeah.
From like bringing an artist and like paying for that.
Yeah.
Like it's wild. Like
Or just having flyers printed out and taking them around and walking to places and posting them.
Yeah.
I literally asked her today, I was like, why are you doing this? And like, she's like, I just want to see cool music here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm so humbled by that and grateful because we have done nothing really to deserve any of this help.
Sure.
And it's just like, this is cool.
Yeah.
This is really cool.
Well,
So I think there's that community around South Bend. It's like, hey, we're going to all help each other.
It's so collaborative, right? It's so collaborative. There's less competition and whatnot, and I think we all want to see. Well, you heard that episode on the way up here with Sharon. I mean, we were both talking about that, how we do all these things, and part of it's kind of selfish because it's like, well, we also just want to live in a cool place, so we're gonna make it happen. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah. So when you got that building initially, like what did that look like? Was that like you had to gut that thing out and turn it into your vision, or what was the process like there?
So walked in, and initially it was like a one person was working out there at a marketing agency is what he owned.
Yeah.
And it was just one big room, and so we didn't actually gut it. We kind of did the opposite. We put in a big conference room. We put in a couple call studios, and kind of built it out a little bit. And that's been almost all that's been done to it until recently. We just took out. There were these hanging industrial lights. We just replaced all the industrial lights and put like hanging warm lights. Yeah, and we're in the process of putting in a permanent bar. So you walk in, and it's not like a makeshift bar. It's going to be a nice permanent bar.
Nice.
And so yeah, the building was basically barren, and we kind of put life into it. That's no pun intended, but that kind of like yeah.
Yeah, that was well said, man. That's very poetic. Yeah,
that's awesome. So as you're kind of, again, it seems like you guys have really energized in the last few months. So are there any like big things on the horizon, either with what you're booking or just general, projects going on? Or
man, big things? I mean, maybe. Nothing that like, I don't think we have any major announcements or anything, but and you asked earlier, I don't know that we even answered this question, but you asked kind of a little bit more what the process is of bringing in artists, and a lot of it's just, at first it was for me, I think we're both, Michael's a little bit more of a yin to my yang, where it comes to like, I'm very much like, let's just get as many people in as possible. And then there was a little bit of a hesitancy too, like how much can we afford to bring in? But then we started realizing like every show that we bring, we're probably going to make some money, on bar sales and stuff. So we can I think we're going to be fine. And so then we went from kind of being super conservative with how many shows, like when people would ask about bringing a show, at first I was really turning a lot down. Yeah. I'm like, I don't know, I want to spend this money and lose it. And now we're at a place where like, let's just bring as many shows in as we can, within reason. And, I think we're gonna, like, the more that we're bringing in, the more established we're getting. And
sure. Yeah.
And the more people, the more people that we get in, the bigger database we get for emails and for, social media. So more people know about the others. We're just building something. So I guess a really long answer to that really easy question, Justin, was just like, yeah, we're kind of signing on as much as we can, if it makes sense for our market.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I think you're right. You do have to do some amount of building ahead to kind of build the reputation, build the cred, have people know this is the place to go.
We so with that being said, we want to be known as a place you show up. If there's a show of someone you haven't heard of at Stockroom, you can show up and it's going to be a good show.
It's going to be quality.
It's going to sound good, and the acts that we put up there are going to be good.
Yeah.
That's, I kind of think, what we want to be known for.
So it seems like, from what I've gathered, just from the acts that you have there, kind of the setup, we have a lot of venues that are, maybe they're restaurants or bars, that maybe happen to have a stage, or maybe they haven't turned into more of a venue after the dinner hour or whatever like that.
Yeah.
But you guys seem to be almost kind of like leveling things up to the next thing where obviously you have the co-working space and other stuff during the day and the event space, but like, it's like you guys are a concert venue. You're a place people go for music, a listening room, that kind of a thing. Is that?
Absolutely. Yeah. We have our speakers are flown. So like, I feel like we're official.
You're legit.
Yeah.
They're not going anywhere.
Yeah. We want to be known as the best mid-size venue in South Bend. In fact, the surrounding area.
Yeah.
So like we want to be that staple. So that's how we're trying to position ourselves.
Nice. Are you doing any collaborations with other like local groups, businesses, anything like that?
That's a good question. Yeah, actually we are. Yeah. You want to talk about that?
Sure. Justin, who has been awesome. Justin, he ran sound for a couple of our shows, and we talked about taking our relationship up another notch. And like now he works with us on a monthly basis, and he came to us from the Ignition Garage in Goshen.
Nice. Yeah.
And he's really worked with local collaborations. So we're doing things with Cloud Walking. They're going to be a host. They're going to host their own bar for a month.
Nice.
And so they're coming in, bringing their own bartenders and making their own special drinks. We're doing that. Then the following month with Dainty Made at Revenant, roaster called Revenant. And so they're bringing in. So we're trying to have like featured bars and featured restaurants come in and do a collaboration that way.
I love that. That's great. Yeah.
So just do cross promotion. Because again, when the rising tide raises all ships, right?
Indeed, yeah. So I'm the chair of Niles Main Street, and that's one thing I'm always telling our businesses down here. It's like, it's not about competition, it's about working together, and it doesn't matter if we have a taco truck up front, because that taco truck brings people to town who are going to see that you've got the barbecue place there, and even if they don't eat that night, they're going to come and eat later.
Absolutely,
so,
man.
Yeah,
it's so fun.
I don't think any of us view like the Garage or Lang Lab, none of those places as competition. It's like, hey, we're all working together, homegrown hype, Rocky Button.
Yeah.
Hey, how do we build this thing together?
Yeah.
Well, and they all have their own kind of different vibes too. I don't even know what category you put the Rocky Button into, but
it's like artist led, right? It's very similar to the Lang Lab, but obviously a lot different.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. The Dainty Made, I love. I don't know if you guys have been to any of their after hours things that they've done at their venue, but I love what they do there, and I would love to see that kind of continue. I was talking to I'm drawing a blank on his name from Revenant, but he was saying they were kind of getting overwhelmed with using that space for that because then they had to turn it around for the next morning for breakfast.
Absolutely.
And so I know they were talking about other options for doing those events. It'd be cool to see one of those parties end up maybe at Stockroom instead.
Those things are, I will say, in the works. We've talked with the people that have helped host those at Dainty Made. I'm good friends with Tyler and the guys at Dainty Made, and then the people that help bring those parties in, transferring in this, Stockroom, because like you said, it's a lot of weight on their staff, I think, is what the verbiage they use. So.
Yeah.
And I can imagine, 2 o'clock and then opening up for breakfast.
Yeah.
It's rough.
You're cleaning up from the revelry at 2 a.m. and then,
serving.
It's not a great time.
Serving egg sandwiches at 7 doesn't sound fun.
No, not at all. So, let's go back a little bit. So again, we met through Dan. Mm-hmm. And my history with Dan is pretty interesting because Dan and I met at a protest together. There was some crazy discrimination law that was trying to get passed, and we went and protested at the state senator's office, and I was there by myself, and all the people that were there, I started talking to them, and all these people were from, I'm not a religious person. Mm-hmm. I was shocked that everyone there besides me who was there protesting in support of the LGBTQ community, they were all from a church. And I was like, wait a second, this is not the religion experience I've had in my life. Who are you people? So immediately we had to go get coffee and start talking. And I've known Dan ever since that time.
What year was that?
Oh gosh, that was. Let's see. It was in the early days of this show. Yeah, he was in Michigan at the time. Yeah, it was the early days of this show. I mean, it had to have been 10 years ago, probably. Yeah. So, how do you know Dan? What was the connection there?
Through church.
Okay.
Yeah. So he was the worship pastor at South Bend City Church.
Yeah. Okay.
And I was been a part of that church since the founding. So, he was the worship pastor that was there at the time. So grew up with the church with him.
Sure.
So met him, became friends, and so our love for music.
Because you had had a podcast together about music for a while, right? Yeah. What was that called?
Wow. I forget the name of my own podcast with Dan. It was Future Obsessions.
Future Obsessions. That's it. Yeah.
So that was a fun show.
I enjoyed it.
We traveled down to Nashville a couple times, interviewed artists there. We had live performances on the show in Dan's studio. Yeah, we interviewed some really cool people.
I think there are artists that are still on my playlist that I discovered from you guys.
Yeah.
So,
And so some of those artists have played at Stockroom, which has been cool.
Yeah.
Some of those artists, like, I think Houndmouth was one of mine, like, back in the day, and, like, that's, like, always been a goal of mine. How do I get Houndmouth at Stockroom? And we're working on it. Don't know if it's ever going to happen. But, So I've known Dan for quite a long time, and it all started through church and love of music. So
that's awesome.
Yeah,
music brings people together.
It does, absolutely.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. So, what are you guys listening to these days? Any favorites out there?
Oh, I love that question. Man, I'm all over the place, which everybody is, right?
And it's okay if you're still listening to the 90s music. It's fine. It's fine. We're not judging, you know.
I'm a big playlister. I love making playlists.
You just posted some today, didn't you?
I did. I just was like, the world needs to know. They don't need to know about these, but
The world needs to know what Matt Ingle's listening to.
every once in a while, I just get this moment of of bravery, and I'm like, I'm sending some of these playlists out to the wild. and see
Nice,
if
all right.
anybody
Hey,
wants
and
to-
that was and I'm glad you did that, Matt. That was brave of you.
Thanks, man. I still might delete later.
No,
But right now, yeah. So
That's funny. So I make a weekly playlist. So I have the same ego
okay.
thing where it's like people clearly want to know what I'm listening to. I mean, I do it as a habit every week. Like there's one coming out tomorrow. So, you know.
exactly. Oh, that's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
You do it every week.
Oh, yeah.
Like
yeah.
your own release radar.
Yeah,
thing.
pretty much. Yeah, yeah.
impressive.
I mean,
man.
in general, like having a podcast and us even being a guest on a podcast is an act of people give a shit what we have to say.
Yeah, yeah,
For sure, right?
yeah.
Maybe, hopefully.
And to be clear, I reached out to you. You didn't reach out to me. So, you know.
That's true. That's true. Fair.
Man, so I desperately want to answer your question. I'm a big to me, Tame Impala will
Nice.
always be. I know that they've gotten to another level of popularity, but I've enjoyed them since the mid, teens, like 2014, 15 when they first came out. I still will listen to the Currents record. I mean, at least on a bi-weekly basis.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're familiar with that. That record's probably the best record that has come out in the last 20, 30 years.
I don't think I am, but I'll have to check it out. Okay.
Tame Impala is a Currents.
All right.
Record Currents. But yeah, I'm just a big fan of like neo soul. Like I love Black Pumas, Leon Bridges, Michael
yeah.
Kiwanuka. This not new, but he just came out with a record last year. Jalen Naganda.
Okay.
Philip Michael Scales is an artist that's come into Stockroom. He's in that vein.
Is that why you said yes to Gary Clark? Is he kind of in that vein?
Gary Clark's a little bit more on the blues side than neo soul, but still, like I'm a huge fan of Gary Clark. That Black and Blue record from 2012 is incredible.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of blues, I mean, have you guys tapped into any of the blues history in this region? Because there is so much, you know.
In South Bend or like Chicago?
South Bend, Mishawaka. You know, I mean,
really.
Martha's Midway. I mean, it's not what it used to be since we sadly lost Albertina. But I mean, you know, that place in the day, they got some really amazing artists in there.
Really?
You know, yeah, and you know, local stuff. I mean, I used to be I don't know. Oh, that photo in the corner right there, that's Billy Sticks Nix, who, you know, he came up with Junior and the Igniters. You know, he was the drummer, and Junior, you know, South Bend as well. They both went to South Bend, and, you know, they had a national hit with Shotgun. And, I mean, I used to hang out with Billy Nix watching the Lone Ranger episodes, and he'd tell me stories about hanging out with all sorts of craziness, you know, touring with, like, I'm trying to think. I mean, the Temptations and all these crazy like souls and blues things. People pulling guns on tour buses, and he's just this little humble old dude who had all these crazy stories, but he's just, you know, a dude in South Bend. So
we'd love to tap into it. We haven't. I know also Merriman's like
Yeah.
they're
yeah.
like
Unbelievable.
oh yeah,
so like I know they've had a ton of, you know, world renowned people in, and like we haven't tapped in, but also like I don't know that we should like that they have their thing,
spot,
you know.
yeah. I mean, the jazz thing is definitely covered in the area. You know, Merriman's does an amazing job. I do think there's a hole for the blues though, because again, you know, Martha's Midway used to do an amazing job, but so much of that energy was Albertina, and you know, since she's been gone, and they did a little throwback show. I think it was last weekend actually. Little Frank and the Premiers and Tom Moore were out there playing. I know Tom Moore. You and I used to have a show together. He's a great guy. So it was nice to see that kind of a band out there again. But, you know, I really think there is a need for it. I had a guy, well, I guess the episode hasn't come out yet, but there's a guy by the name of Robert Connolly Farr. And he comes from the, it's a Kentucky, no. I can't, it's a there's a festival that's in Kentucky, and it's a particular area of the blues that's just amazing. And there's such a world that still exists in the blues realm that just doesn't get seen. And of course, you mentioned Chicago. I mean, there's artists from Chicago we could pull into here. So
absolutely, we should check into having some blues.
I'd be so down for that.
Yeah.
To answer your question about who we're listening to, I am kind of like Americano singer-songwriter. I just saw Jason Isbell at the Shed in Chicago.
Nice. Yeah.
It was my first time at the Shed. Awesome venue.
Yeah. How was that? I mean, I'm seeing him in Kalamazoo next month, I think.
It's a really good show. I've seen it at the Ryman. Like he's great, man.
Yeah.
Like, he rips, which is like people might not know that. So like every song is like at least a 2-3 minute guitar solo. And he just jams, man. It's awesome.
I love it. I mean, I've seen him play live back in the day when he was with the Truckers, but I've not seen him since he's been out on his own.
Have you seen his documentary?
No, I havenn't.
You should watch it. It's fascinating.
Awesome. All right. I'll add that to the list too. I just have so much homework here.
Him and his wife just got a divorce. Did you know that?
Yep. Was familiar with that. Yep. Yeah.
It's just interesting. Like, we've talked about this a couple times with Stockroom. Like, we want to be above reproach in like a lot of things we do, and so that like he's like mildly like obsessive with his work, and so it's just like at what level, like how far can you get without like being obsessive or like compulsive or like just going over
alienating.
Alienating. It's just it's a really interesting thing. So he's like a good example to me of like someone that's like one of the best at it. Like it doesn't get much better.
Yeah.
But like at what cost?
That's
the
thing,
so it's like it's just interesting. So I listen a lot of him. I'm also into like Mount Joy.
Love it. Yeah.
And seeing them in Boston this summer with their opening for Noah Kahn, who I've grown to love. I know he's a little more poppy. But man, it's good.
He's gotten big on TikTok. Am I right on that?
He got big on TikTok. And then like played at Rue. And then like,
because I started
kind of like blew up.
Somehow one of his tracks came across my desk at one point a few years back, and then I started seeing a lot of people a lot younger than me wearing Noah Kahn t-shirts. And I was like, what's going on? And then someone told me, because I don't use TikTok because I guess I'm too old for that. But
Oh man, my 14-year-old daughter is obsessed with Noah Kahn. I mean,
I've noticed like when I went to the last Noah show I was at, like everyone was younger than me.
Yeah.
Jason, everyone looked like me and was my same age. Yeah. So like it's just interesting that everyone was super tired. Yeah. So stuff like that. And then like I've been really into like I think the best Tiny Desk concert from NPR is Mac Miller.
Oh,
so I've just been really getting into deep cuts of Mac. I don't know. I have a soft spot for like rap and Have
you got into the what's the one mixtape? Faces, I think, is the one mixtape. That's probably my favorite. I mean, Swimming is obviously the best album, but I think Faces is legit as far as a mixtape goes.
21 Pilots is coming out with a new album. Slash dropped a couple singles that I was really big into them.
Nice.
And we had JD at Stockroom, who was kind of being mentored by 21 Pilots, and
hey, that's awesome.
They're like a version 2.0 of 21 Pilots. I think they take that as a compliment.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, they've been working with Tyler Joseph from the band and Tyler's brother, and so they've done 2 shows with us in Stockroom, and I think they're gonna blow up at some point.
That's awesome.
They sold out like a 3,000 person venue, right?
In Columbus, where they're from, which is where 21 Pilots is from too. But
nice.
Man, so what is your currents? What is your Tame Impala currents? What's your all-time favorite record?
Well, let's see.
That's a big question. Or one that you just don't get tired of.
I mean, I already mentioned that Rutabaga album. That's definitely up there. There's also, and actually, this is a guy I got to connect you with for Stockroom, but Jake Simmons out of Kalamazoo. Jake Simmons and the Little Ghost.
He was on your podcast, right?
Yeah, he's been on recently. Yeah. And he comes down here to play. He played, actually, speaking of the Rutabaga, he played with them at McCormick's, actually, back in the day.
Okay.
Wow.
So, but he and his band are amazing. Their most recent album, Shake So Easy, is just straight rock and roll from from beginning to end. I mean, you turn it on and you're turning up way too loud and just rocking the whole time. It's such an amazing album. But, lately I've been kind of obsessed with Zach Bryan. He is so prolific.
Interesting.
I had a couple of friends at the same time. In fact, the same day, they text me one of his tracks when he first started coming around. And it was funny because I'm like, you both apparently just know me so well that you sent me this track at the same time. And then I started following him, and it seemed like every 3 to 4 months, he would just drop another album or another handful of tracks. All of them amazing. Not a bad track amongst them. And then he just keeps on doing it. I mean, I've only been following him for a couple of years, and in that time, I feel like he's dropped like 5 or 6 albums worth of music, and not a bad song amongst them, you know?
I haven't listened to much of him. I have enough people, and I think this is going to take me over that. Like, they're like, you need to listen. You need to listen. I just don't, because like it's country, right?
It's country, but it's, kind of the alt country.
It's in your vein.
Yeah.
He does a lot of cool collaborations.
Oh yeah,
like Maggie Rogers and
War and Treaty. If you know them from, they're a Michigan band. You know, I mean they're in Nashville now, as Nashville keeps stealing all of our great Michigan bands. But I had the Accidentals on the other day, yesterday actually, and they're another one, a Michigan band, but they live in Nashville now. So it's like we gotta. Come on back here, guys.
Dude, you're doing some work.
Trying to, yeah.
Got a lot going on.
Yeah. So, do you guys do any? Are you guys into any kind of creative works yourself? Do you guys play anything? Do you write anything? What do you? I mean, obviously you're a writer, but do you have any creative outlets? When you're not.
This is gonna sound. I don't even know how to say this. My creative outlet is like building things, not physically with my hands, but like businesses. Like I like to. I have ideas in my head, and I like to see them come to fruition. Like built Truthwork Media, which is a podcasting company.
Yeah.
Stockroom East walked in and like, hey, this could be something. It's a blank space. And so like my creative outlet is my businesses.
Sure.
Like how can I help see these things flourish and grow?
Yeah.
I used to play guitar, but that I hung that up, sold my Taylor, and now I kind of,
Yeah, you're one of those annoying people that knows how to take their things and make money with them. I'm like,
I think you're assuming a lot.
This dude is filthy rich.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about filthy rich. Yeah. But what about you? Are you doing any writing lately still, or?
I'm always writing.
Yeah.
But. Yeah, I mean, I've dabbled with music my entire life too. I've been in several different bands since high school, and played guitar, bass. It's so funny. Like I would have considered myself a musician until I moved to Nashville, and then I realized that the dude giving me my food at Wendy's, drive-through was 1,000 times better than I could ever be. So I stopped calling myself a guitarist almost 6 months into living there. But no, I've worked on a couple different soundtracks over doing the score for soundtracks.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And do little side projects here and there. I've got my buddy Justin and I it's been years now, but we would make just kind of vibey music when we felt like it.
All right.
But nothing as far as at the moment. I'm kind of like you, Michael. Like I've got a couple different businesses and I'm getting started, and started a record label during the pandemic, which was a great time to start a company.
Yeah.
Right? Especially a company that was leaning so much on touring.
Yeah.
And
that's when I started the co-working at Stockroom, was right in the middle of the pandemic.
So everybody together when you can't get together.
When you can't do that.
Yep.
Right. So kind of the same. Like I just, I think Michael and I are both very, and you too, Justin, sound like very just creatively charged. Like we have to have something that we're doing as an outlet.
Yeah.
So.
I think you're right. I don't think any of us are people that idle well, So,
not for too long.
Yeah.
To start getting, you just got to start doing something. So, I'd say those are the things I love. I love just finding new talent. And, again, it's probably part of the playlisting too. Honestly, I love making playlists because it's a little bit of like my way of, kind of getting people exposed out there. And so all that. Yeah.
Well, as we wind down here, what do you guys, hope for the future of Stockroom East? I mean, what are we going to be doing in a couple of years down there? Who are we going to be seeing?
Yeah, that's a good question. For me, I hope that it can become the venue that I have in my mind and want it to become. It really, it's going to take a life of its own. Like we can only do so much, right? Like we can do the things that we think is the best, building it out wise and bringing in the people. And I hope that we are finding a community in this area that wants that. Like we can only do so much, right? And if, I don't know if you're asking like what we need help for, like we just need awareness and like people to give us feedback on like, hey, is there a market for this or not? We're going to find out pretty soon. Like, can we support a mid-sized local good music venue in the area?
Yeah.
That's yet to be determined. But we're hoping that we'll be on a map in a real way. Like, what are those, you know venues better than I do. Like some venues in Nashville, you're like, oh, this place in Nashville, we could be this place. And that's kind of like, I want to have that, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I spent so much time in Nashville, like at a place called Exit Inn and Third and Lindsley. Both of those places were very iconic, and I've spent hours and hours of my life there. Chicago, it would be like Shoe Buzz or Lincoln Hall or Double Door. Like those Bottom Lounge, some of those places that are big enough to put a decent crowd in there with a lot of energy, but small, intimate enough that it feels like, man, I just had a moment with this artist, with this band, and just a very special experience. So I cannot wait for people to do that. I think we mentioned that band JD. It was really fun for me as a dad. My daughter and her best friend was there for that show, and she's 14. They're both 14, and they were standing in the front row singing along to every song, and they were having the time of their life. And that was a core memory, I think, for them that I remember having when I was in high school, going to this place called the Underground. Do you remember the Underground in South Bend? It was like
before my time, but I know the name. Yeah.
Just this punk rock place. And all these punk bands would come from all over, and I would drive up from Bremen and see this show that I paid $5 to get into and see 4 bands and and just like, this is amazing. And I kind of took it for granted at the time, but it's just because it was still South Bend. But I love the idea of people experiencing that. Like like you said, they can get home by 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock and they're not exhausted.
Well, I like the vision. I think we are heading toward, I hope we are headed toward, and I think we are, this whole area, people elsewhere are saying, what's going on in South Bend? What's going on in Niles? What's going on in Michiana? So I think you guys are a part of making that happen. So I'm glad you're doing it. And everyone listening, reach out to Stockroom East and tell them what you want and that you're coming and come go see some shows.
The biggest way, man, follow us on socials and like just come to shows. Like support. Just even if you haven't heard of the artist, like buy tickets. Like buy tickets, bring friends.
There you go. Can't go wrong.
We were announcing about at least one show a week the last couple months.
It seems like it's been nonstop.
Yeah, it's been a lot of shows.
I love to see it. I love to see it. So I'm gonna hope I can start getting down there and checking some of them out.
Well, thank you, Justin, for the time, man. And thank you for what you're doing with this.
Yeah,
for sure.
Awesome.
Super valuable.
Definitely. Yeah. Thank you. You have been listening to Anywhere the Needle Drops, a product of Red Chuck Productions. Be sure to keep tabs on everything going on with this show and everything else Red Chuck over at redchuckproductions.com or by following us at Red Chuck Productions on social media. Special thanks to Hero Jr. for our theme music. You can check them out, listen to their songs, and see where they're going to be over at herojrmusic.com. That's herojrmusic.com. Also, special thanks to Paul Clemson, our sound engineer and producer. And while you're at it, make sure you visit the websites and band camps and shows of all of our guests. If you want local music, if you want independent music, or any kind of art, you've got to support them. So give musicians and artists your money. We will see you at the next episode. Until then, here's to life.
Would I